we at Planorama are building this tool called Sinfonía. It's been something I've been considering for a long time, kind of building it in my head, which is probably good or bad for quite a long time. When I finally had the ability to go and start building it, we did so, and then AI kind of entered the chat, and I started realizing that there's more here to this original concept than I thought, and more capabilities that we have. Now, I'm going to add that to another project that we're not a part of, which is something I found, and I've been using it for the past couple of weeks. But this GPT-Engineer has only been around under about a month or so, under that, I think. So I want to show you what these two things that are related can do together. But I'm going to talk a little bit about that. Let me move that over here. Okay. So just a couple slides, and then I'll go into actual demoing. So how it is, how it has been in terms of how you can develop products. I'm going to say software products right now, but products in general, you usually go through some type of process in order to build that. Why do we create these processes? Well, we created them to reduce the time to market, right? To get the product out faster. We do it so we can reduce costs and probably increase the likelihood of just overall product success. And success usually means a lot of things, and probably partly means reducing costs and getting it to market faster, but probably other things too. So we create these processes, and we have done over time. Some things still remain, though, and I'll kind of extract it out from, Shania Twain. There was a post on Reddit yesterday about Shania Twain, and they covered that song. And I'm like, wow, you're still the one. I remember when that came out, and not a huge fan, but I remembered that song, and I thought, oh, I can modify that a bit, because there are still two things that are relevant: the requirements and implementation. Right? You still have, what do I build, and then build it, right? And it can be done all at once. It can be done, in incremental pieces or iterations, but these things still happen. So what have we become accustomed to? Well, I think we're accustomed to delay in both of these phases. So everything here takes time. Right? Discovery, research, technical feasibility, design, UX design. By the way, I put UX design in requirements, and I don't know that people typically do that. I feel it belongs strongly in requirements, because you're still producing the visual requirements. You're saying this is what it needs to look like, right? And you're translating that from what the discovery and research, maybe the user research that you're doing. You're translating that into visual requirements. You're defining the business rules. You're writing documentation, but probably not, or not enough. And, I would say even the technical feasibility lives on this side. The interesting thing is that the left side here, it's not like it's all non-technical and everything over here is all technical. It's a share between. But what I've seen, and honestly, the reason why we kind of do what we do at Planorama Design is that companies typically have a hard time with this. We at Planorama don't do development. We just focus on design. But design for me involves all of these things. Design is like the original engineering concept of design, meaning that you have to plan what you're going to do. And then you actually go and build it. Now, that can happen in iterations like in Agile, or it can happen in Waterfall or any other methodology, but that's still typically what happens. But all of these things do take time. What also are some things we're accustomed to? Well, in requirements, usually internal product documentation doesn't exist, or it's scattered about. Look, we all know the Agile Manifesto, or at least we've heard of it. What do they say? They say that, I'm going to quote it, working software over comprehensive documentation. I think what has happened, though, is that many of us are kind of, or many have unwittingly leaned on that statement to deprioritize documentation altogether. User stories are documentation, right? And we need those, but sometimes those are lacking. Sometimes those just become bullet points, and you're like, well, go build it according to my bullet points. And that's not very good. And on the development side, well, they benefited from a lot of automation. That's great. Through, going from development to CI/CD and getting it out the door and continuous deployment. But, humans are still slow and we're still buggy compilers, because at the end of the day, we're compiling the information from requirements and we're compiling it into code, and we're pretty buggy at that. And it's not just on developers, it's everybody, right? It's just we're human and we make mistakes like that. So, our processes that we create, in fact, the ones I showed before and other ones I'm not even showing, are all trying to preempt that bug insertion that we tend to do, or defect insertion that we tend to do in our projects. So there are some things that are trying to mitigate that, right? And Copilot is one of them. That's been interesting. Copilot has and if you haven't tried it before, you should give it a try if you're into any kind of coding. It's almost magic. And it turns out, I think we're getting a sneak peek at the problem, because when you go use Copilot, the way it works, it works a number of different ways, but one of the best ways is you put in a comment and you say what you want. Okay, this is what the code below is going to do. And then it just magically fills it in for you, right? And so what are you doing? You're just grabbing your requirements. So what's the future? What might be happening? What might be coming up? Well, this slide is actually titled incorrectly, because the future is not what might be. The future is right now. Right now is what's happening. AI kind of snuck up on us. But it's only been, think about it. It's only entered the ubiquitousness of our conversations around software development over the past year. It's very, very nascent. And so AI assistance is certainly improving and accelerating our work. I hear tales from different teams where they're finding that, say, Copilot is increasing productivity from 40% upwards, right? And probably upwards is going to be even more upwards. It just makes people faster. But here's what I think that the actual issue is that we're going to have software that's auto-built for us. And that's where this is, I think, the part that is a little hard to wrap our heads around. We've been so used to all these processes and all these things that we have to ascribe to, and they work. They cause us to work in certain ways because we have to, in order to get software, in order for us to compile requirements into software. But that may not be the case. And so I want to consider what that means. Because this is not, I know I put this background in and I just was searching for something that looked interesting, but it's a big deal, right? Like, this is not Thor reaching for the hammer, because that just assumes everything is a nail, right? It's Thor reaching for whatever the hell he needs, and it's just made, right? That's the bigger issue, right? If Thor needs a forklift, he reaches and gets a forklift, right? That's the thing, and it can happen. Imagine that timeline that can happen immediately, right? We're used to software taking 3 months minimum to get some features out, right? Imagine if it's like overnight, right? Or within an hour, you get what you need. There is a lot of interesting opportunities that open up. And I don't just mean in terms of time to market and speed, but imagine niche areas in the market that are underserved because nobody wants to make the time to go and build an application to do X, Y, and Z for some people who ride tiny horses and they need an application to do something for them, right? Who's going to go build that app, right? Well, if the cost of it comes down to be negligible, okay, now it may make total sense, right? And there could be a complete set of markets opened up for applications that are needed just to serve and do one specific thing, right? So here's the challenge again, is that those product requirements that were kind of LOL before, now they're really important because you still have to tell it what to build, You still have to tell it something. Go build this. This is the thing I need, right? Those user stories are very important. Everything about definition. If everything else is automated, I'm not saying it's happening right now, but I can say it's starting right now. If everything else is automated, you're going to need to tell it what to do. Okay. So let's jump over and talk about these two projects. And I'm going to walk you through a little bit of a demo here. One of them, here, I'm just going to, one second, I'm going to switch out. So over here is Sinfonía. And we're going to build an application really quick. And I'm going to do all this live, so stuff may not work, but Sinfonía will work, but other things, you know, it's live, right? So this is what happens. I'm going to copy and paste in. So I'm going to call this online homework tool or application. And I'm going to start with AI assistance. Now we're in Sinfonía right now. The whole objective of Sinfonía is to get you to a place where you have a solid product definition, right? Where you centralize your source of truth. Now, does that mean that Sinfonía is going to turn into Figma? No. Other tools do really good things really well. But we want to have a place where we pull all that together because there's value in doing so, as I'll talk about in a little while. So we're going to start with a description for your project. This is assuming you're starting from scratch. There is some ones here you can pick from if you want samples just to try it out, play around. But here's one that I put in. So it's for online homework. I used to work, when I did a little stint in ed tech, I used to work for an online homework company. And so students can view homework assignments that they have due. They can submit that homework. They can see their grades. Professors and teaching assistants can review those grades or review their homework, give grades, provide feedback. Not, you know, this is a small scale thing right now. I'm just toying with an idea. So now we're going to go, and this is where Sinfonía utilizes AI to analyze what you typed in and start giving you some feedback about what you may need, right? We're trying to get you to a more holistic definition of your product. So it looks like you're going to need students and teaching assistants and professors and system admins. Yeah, that's about right, right? By the way, many times it will suggest other ones that it sees based on what you're telling it. So they may be valid, they may not be. You can delete and add and so on as you wish. So then we'll come in and it'll start thinking about features, you know, based on what you wrote and also based on what you didn't write. Right now, transparency, we use GPT-3 for this, and we use a large language model because it has been trained on a lot of information, a lot, right? And there's a lot of value in this brainstorming ability of GPT-3 and 4 now, right? Thinking of things that maybe I didn't put in there at all, right? And we found that that's been very useful as well. So we'll come in here and we'll see what it came back with. Came back with some okay things. Let's see, user account, secure login system. Yep. I mean, I'm going to leave out login for now because that's all there. Homework listings. So yeah, we need to be able to view the assignments. We need to be able to view which, let's see, view the upcoming assignment for me. So for me, let's see, for me, the due date. What else do we need to be able to do? Well, let's see, we're going to need, going to be able to let's see if I do view all homework. Actually, no, I've already got that there. I've already got view all. So we're just going to leave that there. We got submit assignment. So yeah, we can submit an assignment. I'm just going to change that. Submit one or more homework assignments. We need to be able to upload the homework assignment that may be in any different format. Submit the assignment to the professor. And let's say view the status of the assignment. And let's see, what else do we have here? We've got grade submissions, review and provide feedback. So this is more like the professor is doing this probably, and TA and review assignment. Let's just go in and we'll say they can provide feedback to the student about their assignment. They can give a grade to the student. Okay. And the student can view grade. All right. And let's see here, view grades for completed tasks. So yeah, they can do that. So maybe I'm going to say view grades, and that can be, this might be for student and view their own grade, and professors and TAs can view grades. All students in the class. And maybe they want to filter search and filter the student by name and ID. Let's just assume that's it. I'm going to cut out everything else here because this is not we're not trying to do the whole thing here. So, well, yeah, so we got those. That's fine. So then we finish that. And so what do we get? We get a starting of a map, of a feature map, right? Now, the other thing we can do now is start to we can move things around. We can say, oh, you know what, this actually belongs over here, and these things belong around here, and I want to change how that works. We can do any of that here. We can also say, well, you know what, we've validated that these are the case. Of course, you'll notice I did no validation. We're not doing user research in this call. So it's coming up with ideas. You need to go and actually make sure these are the right things to build, right? So what do we do? Well, when we get to the point where we say, okay, I want to view the upcoming assignment for me, with the due date, I'm going to suggest sub-items for that. And now we can start breaking it down even further. This is for the student. So now the student is the one who's going to see what their upcoming assignments are. It's going to start suggesting other features that you might need, which now this starts really getting into the UX, right? What are they going to do? What's the workflow they're going to come? Well, they're probably going to, I don't want to do an update. Probably going to view the upcoming homework assignment, select one to view its due date, review the due date for its, yeah, that sounds about right. Right. We can go through other ones here. If I want to submit an assignment, let me pick one here, upload the homework assignment, and that's going to be the student doing that. So I'm not, view, and this is where it's like, well, not really the upload page. I don't really care I don't want to get into what the UX, where it is, but say select the file to upload, confirm, and submit the homework assignment. Great, right? And you can go through and do this whole process, and basically what I'll say is, blow out your feature map, right? Get to the point where you've built the feature, you've designed the features, you've designed your scope, right? The feature map is nothing more than a scope of work that we're trying to address and design and build. So I'm going to switch over to one I already did before, where I've already gone through this process. Now, they're not all exactly the same as the ones I was showing because I was doing that on the fly. But you can see that I've taken a feature map here and said, okay, well, we've got homework assignments, grading, viewing homework submission history. Again, probably more to this than what I'm designing, but it's a starting point. Now, number of things we can do here, right? You can export to Jira. Right. This will export so you can get this into Jira as a CSV and pull it right in. It's pretty seamless, and you're good to go. The other thing that we're building here is an export that will get this to a file that you can do something else with, and that's where we're going to talk about GPT-Engineer. So GPT-Engineer is a project over here in GitHub. If you Google GPT-Engineer, you'll find it. It's pretty easy to find. They're using large language models, and in particular using OpenAI, GPT-3 or 3.5 or 4, if you have access to 4 through the API. And it's actually a rather small project. If you look at the files in here, it's all in Python. If you look at the files, it's not that big, really, because what it's really doing is guiding the LLM through the process of figuring out from your requirements what you need, and what you need in terms of test cases, and what you need in terms of software, the actual code, right? It is smart enough even to ask questions of you when you haven't defined something, which is really interesting, right? So the less you put in your requirements document, the more it has to ask. But it won't ask everything, because sometimes it doesn't know what it doesn't know, and it'll build something that's completely wrong. Okay. But that's okay. We're a month in. Give it time. So what I'm going to do now is jump over to my Linux box here. And this is, again, just running on my local Linux. I'm going to go into projects. I'm going to online homework 2. And you can make this prompt. It's called main prompt. And what I'm going to do is paste in this text. Now, this text is basically the output of Sinfonía. Okay. I took what is in Sinfonía right now, and I codified it in a way that is just in a text file that shows the hierarchy of the features. It says, first of all, it says, this is the thing that we're building, which is the description I wrote in the beginning. It says, this is text I wrote, what we're building. I said, hey, I want to use Node and I want to use Express for the back end. We're going to connect to a MongoDB. We're going to use role-based access control. Okay, the idea here is, though, that we've taken a specification that we created in Sinfonía, and we're exporting it now in a way that is readable by this GPT-Engineer. And not very long, but you can imagine a feature map that could be quite longer, quite bigger, would have more information in here, and this could get quite big. The point is, though, that is the prompt, right? It's just a text file. And this is, when I say prompt, it's not a prompt like this is being sent directly to AI in one shot and is sending back a program. It is iterating and using this as the source of truth, right? As I mentioned, that requirements is very important because that is the source of truth. It has to know what to build. So I'm going to go back here. And now we're not going to sit here through the whole process, but I want you to be able to see what's happening, because it does a good job of telling you what's happening as we do it. So online homework 2. And so it's going to go into that directory, find that main prompt, and start going. And we're going to see what happens, because I'm doing this right now. So this is what it's replying back with. It's information coming from the language model, clarifying question. Can you provide more details on the RBAC and granted permissions? Okay, so I'm going to say the feature descriptions in the prompt list the role access to each feature, and thus imply the credit. Let's see how it does with that. So now it's talking through what it needs to build. Here's a user. It's going to need a constructor and get role, homework, submission, a class, the idea of a class, right? Not a programmatic class, but an actual class, because we're doing online homework. Now it's defining the CRUD operations.
So
now we're writing code.
Yeah, my coupled sense, like the point you've made about the price of building an MVP and an application, at the beginning of your talk. So basically, even the most crazy idea. Like the limitation to that was that you will need to spend some money to build the actual application. But if the AI can create any kind of application of whatever complexity with like super fast and super cheap, that might open like a huge amount of possibilities. Like we've been laughing about different like communities or like websites for cat owners, for example, and startups about that. But in this particular case, if AI would be able to build anything you'd like, that might be absolutely amazing.
Well, look, we're in a very nascent period right now, right? I'm going to jump over to their website. If you go into the benchmark directory and look at the README, these are applications as of 2 days ago that they've been able to define and have it build and do so successfully, right? This is only going to get better, right? And we're, like I said, we're under a month of this project existing. Now, where is the, I mean, look, it's nothing is perfect, right? But we're going to need to learn how to code better as people in natural language. Oddly enough, we've spent our time figuring out how to write code in a language that we've made to help us interface with the computer, right? Now we're at a point where we're going to need to learn how to write specifications better so the AI can interpret it the way that we mean it and build the thing, build what we really care about, right? Build that solution. So I think that slider for development, and by the way, UX is not immune here either, right? UX design can be easily automated as well, using heuristics, using understandings of how people prefer applications to be, how they prefer to interface with certain types of applications. And we'll get to a point where AI is giving us pretty good guesses for how the user interface should look. So UI and UX is not immune here, right? But what I'm saying is that we're going to need to get better shifting ourselves over to feature requirements and defining that really well, because at that point, much of this, I think, can be automated. And here we are. It's going, it wrote a bunch of this. And let's see, we're going to see what happens. So, okay. Let me go to project. Point number 2, workspace. So there's the files it created. Now, again, this is at this point, this is the starting point, right? I'm going to look at entry point here. So, I mean, yeah, it's real code. It's real functioning code. And the fact is that they've been able to actually put in prompts here and have it come out perfectly is a testament for the fact that we're just a month into this existing, right? So I'm not saying that, again, any of this is well cemented and ready to go, but we're at a very beginning point here where I feel like tools like Sinfonía, and that's, again, why we're building it, that source of truth is going to become very important, right? The automation can come afterwards, right? And that automation may involve people. In fact, I'm kind of designing Sinfonía saying it's the product requirements for who or what builds your product, right? We don't know what it's going to be. It might be a mix of the two. But we're still going to have to get really good at defining what we want so then the build can actually happen, whoever does it. But I do want us to wrap our heads around the fact that the build may be happening faster and faster, and not just incrementally, but orders of magnitude faster as time goes by. So what are we doing next? So we're actually working on getting a real prompt export so that you could, just like I showed, you could export to a CSV, you could export to a text file and bring it right in, and do so in a way that the prompt, that the output, that basically the output of Sinfonía is readily ingestible and would work with GPT-Engineer, because that seems to be the project that's getting a lot of attention and making a lot of progress. The other thing that we're doing in Sinfonía is actually we have our own AI team at Planorama. We have a side called Planorama Labs that is our R&D area. And we have our own non-commercial language model so that we can do things without using GPT. Now, we're going to still use GPT, OpenAI GPT for many things, including code generation. right now. I don't think we're at the point where we can get away from that, but we're also doing some work on our own language model to help us do definition and work with the scope that you're defining within Sinfonía, and to be able to explore that. And then finally, if you want to help us out with our user research, you can reach out to us at sinfonia-research@planorama.design. I know that's a mouthful, but I'd love to have help doing interviews and more user research. We did a round of that a short time ago, and it's time to start doing it again. So I'd love to have some people participate and get feedback specifically. But that was all I wanted to say. I think I've ran out of time here.